Right, I'm back. So this is the left stick tutorial now. I'll just climb right into it. If you've watched my video on the right stick, you'll hear my whole rant about where we hold the stick and why and where the center of gravity is and all that sort of thing. So very briefly, the left stick, we want our thumb to be propelling the stick down from, more or less, from the center of gravity. So we've got that center of mass there, and so you've got to think about it as your thumb bouncing a ball up and down, like you're dribbling a basketball or something. So more or less the thumb now sits above the center of mass, and the fulcrum point naturally ends up being, once again, there where you've got that stick divided into three. So it all works out pretty well. We've got the fulcrum there and the thumb resting on the stick above the center of gravity. Okay, and if you look at my position of my thumb, here, okay, try to get it pointing along the stick. About like so, as much as you can, sort of point it down towards the tip. So think of the tip as an extension of your thumb. So your thumb is actually like this. You've got this extra long thumb. Your thumb now stops there. Think of it that way. And your thumb's going to follow the stick up and down as it moves. So you never want to be caught in a position where the thumb starts to do that or clamps the stick. Okay, if we're clamping the stick with the thumb, that means our hand is tense, and we lose that relaxation that we want. Okay, we tense over there. Okay, so just a little bit a word on why thumb on top as opposed to fingers on top. This is the traditional grip taught to and by a lot of rudimental drummers, DCI drummers, and we developed this way of playing with a thumb on top. And the reason for this, I believe, is that the thumb on top, it's all about the buzz. It's about getting the stick to vibrate. Thumb on top gives me that. Fingers on top chokes off the stick. Even if you just use one finger on top of the stick, you still get a buzz. But the thumb on top of stick buzz is a lot better. It's a lot. I think it's because once again the stick is vibrating more. So look, there's a reason that pipe band drummers play like this. I mean, that we all do, and I believe it's because of that stick vibration that we're choking off like that. So because a DCI drummer will play finger on top and get really, really good control like that. It's actually a great way to play. But they're not as reliant on the buzz stroke as we are. So we got to get into that habit. So let's look at the rest of the hand, right? Two fingers along the side of the stick, just sort of relaxed, not touching, just there. These two fingers are your resting point, your stop. They can also kick the stick up a little bit. Actually, the little finger on the left hand is more useful than your little finger on your right hand, because you've got a bit of support for this finger. So this finger is supporting the stick, and this finger supporting this finger. Okay, so just keep that there. It's just naturally curled in. We're not squeezing it, and we're not straightening the finger. As soon as you see a straight finger anywhere, and on the right hand too, if you see a straight pinky, it's not bad because it's going to get in the way of something. it's bad because it indicates a tension somewhere in the hand. So somewhere in your system, you've got a rigid joint, basically a rigid pivot point. So left hand, the same reason is the thumb. We don't want to see that hooked thumb. That's rigidity again. We don't want to see straight fingers. Okay, so just a natural curl. I do like to keep my my forefinger pretty close to the stick, because sometimes when I'm playing single strokes, I like to supplement my thumb with my finger. So this gives me that extra little extra option for controlling. But as soon as I get to a closed movement, as soon as I'm playing buzzers, I'm thumb on top, always, and fingers away from the stick. We do a lot of drags, and in the drag we actually want to choke the stick. So also having the fingers there gives you the option of getting the, let's get this thing to behave itself. We have the option of using the fingers to supplement the thumb to get that deader stick we're looking for in the closed drag. Okay, so sometimes if we only use the thumb, we get that slightly buzzy sound, and finger on top, we get the drag sound that we're looking for. Okay, so that covers the thumb, where to hold the stick, what the rest of your fingers should be doing. Now let's look at let's go to arm position again. The arm position is, we saw that the right hand was about 45 degrees from the perpendicular, or from the line straight out from you should be waist height. I've got this pad a bit higher to bring it into the video. So yeah, we're also about 45 degrees in with the left hand. You'll see some drummers playing more sort of side on, which is also okay. Actually works pretty well. And we've got different modes of control. So we've got your primary driving force behind the left hand is your wrist. Okay, so you've got that wrist rotation again. It's a very strong motion. We'll see also with the right hand, you've got two different wrist motions. You've got wrist rotation, and then you've got this, which is called wrist pronation. And right hand again, if you're too close into your body, you tend to rely heavily on the pronation of the wrist, which is a weaker wrist action than a slightly side-on rotation. So we're actually using a combination of both, especially when we bring in the upper body and we start to use the elbow. Then we've got a lot of that going on. And the great thing about the left hand is you're never going to pronate the wrist, because the stick, naturally, you always want to get the stick rotating, and the only way to do that is by rotating the wrist. So you've got the strength already. The left hand is actually a really great way to hold the drumstick. Okay, so we got that would be your primary method of control on the left hand, would be just twisting the wrist. So we get into that that mode of moving the stick up and down, and once again notice that the stick is rotating. It's not up and down. It's not translating. That would be a weak way to play. You're not going to get much strength. You're not going to get any. You're working against the physics here. So rotating of the wrist, that's your primary method of. That's your strongest control method. You also bring in forearm and you bring in upper arm, especially when you're bringing in big accents. You'll see there's a whole movement of the arm. So we've got your hinge points, your shoulder, your elbow, your wrist, and then to add to that, we've got the finer control, which comes from the thumb. And this is the one that you actually in the beginning, you've got to spend a lot of time getting right, because it's a bit of a foreign thing. In the right hand, that's a very natural action, and we're used to manipulating pens, and most of us are right-handed. So now in the left hand, this is a very strange thing to get going. So you're broadly speaking going to practice two different things with the left hand. You're going to practice the rotation of the wrist. Now initially, it can help to slightly hold onto the stick with the fingers. So, you know, we're exercising that sort of gross control. And then as we get more used to that action, we start to just let go a little bit, and we give the stick the freedom of movement. So remember, the right hand had the openness. Well, on the left hand, your openness is just given to you by not having fingers in the way. So left hand open, left hand closed. There you kind of stuck to your hand, and there it's free to move. Okay, so we've got that same amplification of the movement that we had. Small wrist action for a large return. Okay, so we're getting help from the natural inertia, momentum of the stick. Okay, so you start off and you get your wrist used to that rotational action, and then you start to open up the fingers, and you allow for the rebound of the stick. So that's your one mode of control. And like I said, the second and harder mode to master is the thumb. So we need to force ourselves at some point to keep the hands still, keep the arms still, rigid but not tense, and only use the thumb. So it's that sort of bouncing the ball under the thumb action that I was talking about. And spend as much time as you need to get that going, because all your fine control is going to come from there. And almost always the left hand technique is going to be a combination of wrist rotation and thumb movement. But your thumb is always going to follow the stick up and down, wherever it goes, however high it goes or low it goes. You always want to feel the stick there. So even if you're relying more heavily on a wrist rotation, you might be propelling the stick with your wrist, but the thumb is following it up and down. So I'll show. This is me only using my thumb. This is me using my wrist predominantly, but following with my thumb. And we see that the best is almost always to use a combination of both. So when you want a slightly stronger stroke, we're going to use a very dominant wrist action. We want a finer, faster stroke, we're going to use the thumb. Okay, and as a slight variation on the thumb technique, what I find sometimes helps is, especially with speed and smaller movements, is to use this part of the thumb. So you can slightly lift the tip of the thumb to get a quicker action. You're going to want the full thumb on the stick for the accents and for the buzzers, but if you slightly lift the thumb, it does allow for a slightly quicker action. But that's up to you. You can feel around with what works for you. And I think that about covers the left hand for now. That's where I'm going to leave the left hand for now. All right. So remember, just keep at it. Practice your modes of control. Wrist, thumb, try to combine the two. Bring a bit of arm for your bigger accents. And never forget the basics. Where we grip, okay. Okay, this is not working for me. There, okay. What the thumb looks like on the stick, what the other fingers are doing, where the hand is, where the arm is, and most important, keep it relaxed. Nice and relaxed. Somebody comes up to you and knocks a stick, it should be able to fall out of your hand, no problem, no tension. All right, so bye, see you next time.